Hey everybody, welcome to Season 4 of What's IGN Crushing On. I'm Caryn Solomon and I'm your host, and we're here to talk about what's hot in pop culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntec. Syntec is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world. Welcome to episode 14 of season 4. Today is a very exciting episode because we had the opportunity to chat to Oscar Isaac and May Calamawy from Disney Plus and Marvel series Moon Knight.
Woohoo!
So, as you guys might know, Disney Plus is launching in South Africa on the 18th of May. So, in anticipation for the launch, we got an opportunity to chat to these amazing stars, and I got to
Stop. You have to sound so much more excited. I'm like, it's fucking Oscar Isaac, and you're like, oh yeah, we chatted to like Oscar Isaac.
He was like. They were like so cool, like, and I'm so chill. Like, I wasn't nervous at all. I wasn't stressed. I was calm as a cucumber.
No, you didn't get your hair done or your makeup. We didn't have to come and do a lighting test the day before. None of that happened.
I just basically fell in front of the Zoom call and was like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When he said, "Hi, Caryn," my stomach jumped. Like I didn't even know my stomach could do those kind of things. And like my heart swelled like twice. I was like, Oscar Isaac said my name in real life. No, but they were both very lovely and very gracious. And so I should say that Moon Knight will be launching on Disney Plus on the 18th of May, all the episodes. But when this interview took place, there had only been 4 episodes out, and they had given me screener access to watch those 4 episodes before, Disney Plus is available here, etc. So the interview is based on those 4 episodes. So if they talk about anything to come, it would have already happened by the time,
you're listening to this.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're going to be listening to this before Disney Plus launches officially, but it's a confusing thing. But too many of you have seen the spoilers on social media. So if we're like, oh, that already happened, that's why. But if you haven't, there's no big spoilers that will affect your watching of the show. It's basically just their perception of the characters and of what the show is and what the show represents, and which I think is very important and very interesting. So, like, some backstory about the show. So Moon Knight tells the story of Stephen Grant, who is almost like he works at the British Museum, and a mercenary called Mark Spector, who investigate the mysteries of the Egyptian gods from inside the same body. So the series actually tells very interesting stories about people with multiple personality disorder. And they're very, I want to say, very careful and very empathetic in how they deal with it, which I enjoy.
Interesting.
And then, so Oscar Isaac obviously plays Mark and Stephen, which means he's playing 2 of the same roles, and which seems to be a very common thing in Marvel nowadays. With Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, characters often play the same roles opposite each other. The stunt doubles in Marvel must be making overtime. And Oscar Isaac's stunt double just happens to be his brother, which is quite interesting. So May Calamawy plays Layla Al-Fayuli. She's Egyptian and she's a love interest of Mark/Stephen. And I don't want to explain too much of who she plays, but she's also sort of like an archaeologist type person, daughter of an archaeologist. There was a similar character in the comics, but she wasn't Egyptian or Middle Eastern, and and one of the things that the show does excellently is also the way it deals with with the Middle Eastern side of the story. Like, we've seen so many films and TV shows dealing with Egypt, and where the actors aren't Egyptian or don't
Yeah.
aren't from Egyptian descent. And May is actually half Egyptian, half Palestinian, and she grew up in Bahrain, and so she has that sort of like, it just feels more authentic.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so it's a very compelling show, and I will keep you like gripped, because I was gripped. Like, I watched all 4 episodes in one night. I was like, so because I was preparing for the interview, but also because it was so well done. It was so interesting. So yeah, so we got an amazing opportunity to chat to them. And also this week on Thursday was the media showcase of Disney Plus, where they revealed to us everything that's going to be on the streaming platform. So it was very
When you
exciting
say
because,
everything, you mean everything that's going to
yes,
be on there. It's insane.
so there's over 1,000 films, more than 1,500 series, and a slate of almost of 200 exclusive originals. So what also makes
Sure.
it so exciting, and we were discussing this before we started recording, was because we don't have all the other streaming services and platforms that they have in the US. Disney Plus is our platform because it's all the Disney properties in one. So that includes obviously all the Disney stuff, Disney Channel, like all their shows, the whole vault of Disney movies. There's everything that Pixar, there's Marvel, Star Wars, of course. There is Star, which is, first National Geographic, and then there's Star, which has all the adult content. So, which Star isn't like, you won't get Star necessarily in America, I don't think. Well, I don't know, but in the Europe and everywhere else, that performs the adult content. So that's where you get content from Hulu, from Fox, from FX, and all the other 20th
Mm.
century 20th century Fox, which also Fox Searchlight, which Disney owns all of those areas. So we're getting all of these things under one banner, which is exciting, which means we don't have to subscribe for 20 different streaming services to get like the content.
We
We
just
just
need
need
the
that
one,
one.
which is amazing.
Yeah, and like I mean, you guys can find the list online. I think News 24 published it, and Business Tech or one of the other. They published they embedded that entire PDF of everything you're gonna get on there. And I mean, I sent it to you as well. And there's like,
Yeah, it was a lot.
it was a lot. It's like when I tweeted about it, and I was like, oh, they have a lot of movies. Like, it's like movies for
Because you can't
everybody.
list all of it. It's
It's
way
like,
too much.
and it's like
I
the
mean,
one
if you're
you
saying the entire catalog of Disney movies, and I'm like, Disney's been around for ages, and you're including Fox Searchlight, and you're including, it's way too much. Like, I'm so excited. I wasn't
yeah.
expecting, for some reason, I forgot Hulu was a part of it. And
Mm.
like, I'm just so excited to see Only Murders in the Building and Abbott Elementary. So,
Mm.
like, because those things I've been seeing the timeline talk about, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to play with.
So
So, I'm very, very excited.
so Abbott Elementary in the US is on ABC, which is also owned by Disney. So all the ABC things like Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, all of those stuff, also all 911, all are going to be on the platform. So Disney is encouraging everyone to tweet what they want to watch first, and then hashtag it my first stream.
Oh,
So for
nice.
you it'll be like Only Murders in the Building, and you're like, that'll be my first stream. So I mean, I tweeted earlier that, like, I'm very excited to rewatch Ally McBeal, because Ally McBeal was on Fox back in the day, and now that's owned by Disney. And I was just like, everything, the things like Ugly Betty, you watch that. Oh, I've been waiting for that to be streaming somewhere.
To be
Then
able to
plus,
rewatch it.
yeah, the new Kardashian show. I mean, we talk about the Kardashians for a lot on this show. So
The fact that you
yes,
said the Disney Channel, I just remember, isn't Recess part of
yes, she says
Disney?
it's a Disney Channel.
Oh, guys, when am I gonna find the time to watch all this stuff?
Exactly. I'm like, I'm so excited, but what am I gonna watch this stuff? There's so much to see. And there's like all the
Also, because I
movies.
know.
Yeah.
Sorry, also because I know Steve and I are going to fight over what we're going to watch. Because he's been dying to watch all the Star Wars stuff like Obi-Wan and Mandalorian. And like he's been so bleak that we haven't had a chance to see it yet. And I'm like, no, 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 I want to watch Recess. Like,
So the great thing about this is not sponsored at all, guys. I'm just this is a natural segue. But the great thing is that you can have 7 profiles on Disney Plus, and you can have 4 concurrent streams.
oh,
So
that's
so
amazing.
you can watch on your phone, laptop, whatever, or Steve watches on the TV. You guys can you can work it out. Like, I mean, that's
Mm,
always a challenge for me, especially with like Netflix, because I have the 2 concurrent streams. And then if like my nephew's watching his like Peppa Pig and my mom is watching Bridgerton, and then what must I do? Or my other nephew's watching Vikings, then I must just chill. But I mean, I'm also excited to catch up on all the movies that I haven't seen, like Encanto. I never watched Encanto yet, or Raya and the Last
mm.
Dragon. All of that stuff is gonna be available on the show. And of course, Pam and Tommy, I wanted to see that so badly. There's so much I want to watch. I'm the same like you.
Crashing on in the
Crash.
future is going to be lit.
Yeah. It's strange to me how we like it's like we had the option of so much, but now we have the option of so much more. And the problem
Yeah.
with me with the media showcase on Thursday was that I was like, I want to watch this stuff now. Why do I have to wait another almost 2 weeks to watch this? Like, this is so unfair. But I mean,
Yeah, so close but so far type of
yeah, it's so
feeling.
close. It's so far. Exactly as you said. So, for those who are wondering about the price, they have a special offer if you subscribe before the 17th of May, where you can pay $9.50 for the whole year. Otherwise, 12 months is 1,190 for an annual subscription, or 119 Rand per month. So, yeah, and as I said, you can have 4 concurrent streams, 4K quality for select titles, and you can set up 7 profiles. And for the parents that are wondering, there are like some age restricted stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't pay a lot of attention to that because I don't have a kid. So 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 there are, like, you can look it up. There's some like pins and things that you can put, like, I was like, this does not apply to me. But
You say this like you didn't just talk about your nephew watching Peppa Pig on your on
yeah,
your
but I mean
profile.
it's not my responsibility if he stumbles into adult content. But also, he's like 2. You're not gonna know what's going on. I'm assuming this is for people with like 8-year olds.
Yeah, I got you.
So yeah, here is our chat with Oscar Isaac and May Calamawy. How do you play someone with this type of disorder who is supposed to be a superhero so well, and the 2 personalities don't have anything in common?
Yeah, well, the first step was to just really read a lot about people that suffer from dissociative identity disorder, and just to get a sense of what it feels like to have to live with that, and how it manifests itself. And then after that, it was about finding. First was like finding the character of Stephen, and one that I'd want to, that I'd want to play for a very long amount of time, because I knew it was going to be a long shoot. And, I saw an opportunity to create a really different kind of character than one that I've played before. And so once I found him, then it was about figuring out the counterpoint to that, which was Mark, and how to make them as contrasting as possible. But really, it's about what Stephen provides for Mark. What is that release? What is that? In a way, it's like the fantasy of a life that is normal, it doesn't have the horrible trauma that Mark endured. And so then it was just about playing with those 2. And then as far as shooting, at first it took me a little while to be able to switch between the 2. I didn't feel totally comfortable. So I asked if we could just stay in one character when we would shoot. I mean, if we could that week, if not, at least on that day. And then as it went on, I got more comfortable. And then by the end of it, I could switch pretty easily.
There's an adventurous element in the series, and particularly in episode 4, there's a feeling of a bit of Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider. Were those also an inspiration for the roles and the whole atmosphere of the series?
Yeah, when I spoke to Kevin Feige before starting, he told me that there was elements of, he was most excited about the Egyptian lore and the Egyptian mythology, and that this was an opportunity to really delve into that world. And of course, in Western movies, the big ones that were, that played with those kind of archaeological adventures was Indiana Jones, and then Tomb Raider, a bit of The Mummy. So those were, obviously aware of those things, but I think there was an opportunity to try to do something different. And the most different thing is actually getting someone to direct it that is from the area, and to hire Mohammed Diab to bring some real authenticity to it and a real modern point of view. It's not just the same old kind of Western cliches and ideas of what that is. So yeah, that was definitely part of it. From a character standpoint, not so much, because he's so a specific thing. He's so different. That's maybe something that landed more on May's table for Layla, who's really much more of like that kind of adventure as far as archaeology. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that, May.
I didn't really I love those movies, but I didn't really take inspiration from them for this. I don't know, when we read that script, it almost didn't feel like I knew what was going to happen. And then after we filmed it, we're like, oh, wow, I can see the similarities, but it wasn't lived through them in any way. It was it was just through the lens of the story that we were telling. And then you notice it visually after.
Oscar, you have ample experience in playing Jewish characters. This time, we know your character is Jewish because he has a Star of David necklace, but there's little on that front as opposed to the source material, where this is a big part of his identity. Are we going to be seeing something in this regard in the remaining episodes?
Yeah, very much so. It's very much part of who he is, but the whole thing is set up as a mystery that needs to be solved, which is, what is their past? How did this happen? I mean, we've also haven't seen how he became Moon Knight. We haven't seen how Layla and him met. We haven't seen. There's so many things that is a mystery that is being solved, and the mystery goes back all the way to their childhood. So that's been the journey of the story. And what's been interesting is just these small clues that start to reveal the truth about their past.
In ancient times, tales and myths about gods were in fact telling universal stories about human beings. And I was wondering, what in your perception is a human story we can find in Moon Knight?
I think a beautiful story you find in Moon Knight is what we talk about, just finding integration with self and coming to yourself and having that self discovery and realization. And it feels like Moon Knight is the character who's so obviously going through it, but everyone, he's almost like sucking everyone around him to go through the same thing as well as they're, revolving around him.
Yeah, it's the whole thing for me can be seen through a traditional kind of comic book narrative, but for me, it is all symbols. It's all metaphor for surviving trauma and confronting your own pain, and the things that have allowed you to survive that trauma. Some of those tools, how those things need to evolve eventually as well. That at a certain point, that same way of living isn't sustainable anymore, and there has to be a new level of healing and a new level of integration, as May says. So for me, everything that you see is an external representation of his internal struggle that is happening.
How did you prepare for this role physically and mentally?
Oscar.
Hey, come on. I mean, you trained way more than I did.
Physically, I trained for 2 months with the stunt team that we had and my personal trainer. So it was like 3 hours a day. And then I just kept that on throughout whenever I could, because I found that the stunt training is what really helped me find Layla. And she's very different to me in a lot of ways. And I had to find those nuances. And then once I found that, I found ways to kind of bring myself to the character as well. And yeah, that's more of the physical aspect. And with the mental, I'd say it's as we were filming and as we had scenes together, Oscar, I was able to discover her more through really her sort of not reaction, but how she processed the condition and the changes between Stephen and Mark. And taking that in taught me a lot, because I'd always be like, I feel like she'd be really annoyed right now. This is really weird that she's kind of being very compassionate. And then I was like, oh, this is Layla. So I had my own battle with how to deal with it. And I found that the character kind of told me who she was.
Yeah, and I started training with some friends of mine here in Brooklyn before I'd really connected with the stunt team, not knowing what it was going to entail. I started just, doing some basic fight choreography stuff, some basic jujitsu things, some parkour, a little capoeira, little different things. And one of the people that I trained with, Loic, he ended up auditioning and playing Beck in the show, who Layla ends up stabbing with her pretty necklace, and so that was really fun. It was just, the whole thing felt like very, very organic, and as I said, it was just a lot about studying DID and what the experience of living with something like that is like, and then trying to show that.
What aspect of your character or characters do you feel that you related to the most?
There's something about characters that I'm always drawn to that feel like outsiders, that feel like they're on the outside looking in. That's just something I've always been drawn to. And so I think certainly Stephen feels like an outsider, and he's in some ways very desperate to connect, even though he doesn't have the tools to be able to do it the way maybe other people that have more social skills do. And then the idea of Mark, there's elements of the pain and the battle with honesty and being afraid of being truthful in certain regards and having to come to terms with that. Those are all things that felt powerful emotionally.
I found that Layla's a seeker in many ways, and she's for the people and will fight at any cost for what she believes in. And she's much more physical than I am, but I find that mentally I found similarities there. Yeah.
May, you play an Arab character in the show, and how important was it for you to bring cultural authenticity to your character? And how important is it for actors such as yourselves in this position to use your role and your power to ensure that there are diverse characters played on screen without any negative stereotypes seeping into the writing?
I mean, it's interesting because I receive messages from people thanking me, and they're like, it's so nice to see someone who looks like me. And for me, I'm like, I'm just one of you. This is new for me too. And the only difference is like I stepped into it to do it, but it's just as huge for me. And it allows us to feel there's a lot of self-acceptance that comes with that. I saw it with myself throughout the filming. I felt so much more confident towards the end. And it's a real gift that we are all deserving of, to feel that space that we are worthy of being there and expressing ourselves fully, and discovering how to express what's true to us, not what we think we might need to express to sort of, fit in. And that was huge for me. I laughed about this with Oscar because I think I said it in an article where I was like, I don't want to take inspiration from someone in the West like Angelina Jolie, and I think she's wonderful, but everyone is comparing in the sense that she's Tomb Raider and there are similarities. But it's so beautiful to look at women in all different cultures, and what does it mean to bring certain differences or the nuances to the screen. And that was really important to me. And a lot of it was even just like how I kept my hair, because Arab women have curly hair. A lot of Arab women have curly hair, and a lot of times they're changing that. And I'd be confronted with my own desire to sort of like tame the frizz. And I really had to keep reminding myself it's not about me and any of my insecurities. It's just about allowing others to feel seen. And it's the best feeling when I feel like I've when one person tells me they feel it, I'm like, my job is done here.
What surprised you most about this experience that you can take through to future projects? And what was it about Mohammed Diab as a director that you found in no one else you've worked with before?
Yeah, well, for me, I didn't expect that it was going to be such a collaborative situation, that there would end up being so much trust built, that I was just part of the storytelling team. It wasn't so like I am the actor and this person's this and that. The egos kind of melted away, and all of us became a team. Everybody became a team trying to tell this story. And it was like all ideas on the table, best idea wins. And it didn't feel like there was a lot of ownership over that stuff. And that just creates, that's what makes it feel like, Stanislavski kind of, doing a theater piece somewhere where everyone's just talking and trying to break down the story and make it as truthful as possible. And so that I didn't expect from something of this scale. It was the hope, but I think that having to be, in a way talked into it a little bit was because the fear was, I was just going to be standing on some hill in Budapest in a cape being like, what the heck am I doing here? And the fact that it was like one of the most creatively fulfilling things, and still is, still every aspect of it, the editing, the release of it, how we talk to the press about it, every element of it was a conversation. And that was just such an exciting thing. And it feels like it really, my particular aesthetic as an artist is shown in this piece quite a bit, and it's still, you're still, as Ethan said, you're still cooking in Kevin Feige's kitchen, but with those ingredients, but you get to make, we got to help make the dish that we wanted to make. And so that was really exciting.
Moon Knight is obviously one of Marvel's more obscure characters. Oscar, at any point when you were offered the role, were you aware of Moon Knight prior to being offered this role? And B, was there a part of you that was thinking, well, Captain America will probably come up again soon. Let's hang in there for now.
I had no desire to play Captain America, so that didn't pop up. But I had no idea who Moon Knight was. I'd never heard of him before. Thought it was a kind of a funny, unusual name. I had to do like a deep dive into it, and all I saw at that point was opportunity to actually create something, because there was no real expectations. Even within the comic book, he's changed so drastically from writer to writer. His backstory has changed, his look has changed, the characters around him have changed so much. So it felt like we had quite a big resource to pull from to figure out what excited us and what we wanted to explore. So for me, it was actually, that was one of the more exciting things about it was its obscurity.
So that was our interview with Oscar Isaac and May Calamawy from Moon Knight. Moon Knight will be streaming on Disney Plus when it launches in South Africa on the 18th of May 2022. So if you missed the part at the beginning, just go back and rewind, and you can find out all the details about Disney Plus, etc. And we will link to Disney Plus in our show notes. So if you want to sign up before the time, you can do so. So before we head off for the week, Leanne, what have you been crashing on?
Two very different things. So Netflix got season 5 of Superstore. I can't remember if we spoke about. I think you might have spoken about it, but I hadn't seen it because it wasn't out on Netflix yet. But yeah, season 5 of Superstore, the pandemic season, as it were, so good. I think just the way they've taken the growth of all the characters, it's a lot. Except they broke my heart in the first episode or two. I was like, what is this? Why would you do this to us? And yeah, so I think we've just passed halfway, but excited to see where they're taking it, because you can see they're kind of ramping up for their sixth and final season, just with where the storyline is going. And it's so cool to see how they're building in great endings for all the characters. Like, you can see how they're moving stuff into this. But yeah, no, everyone is still hilarious and the shenanigans are still on point. So having a ball of a time. It's also weird watching them go through the beginning of the pandemic now that we're kind of out of the pandemic, inverted commas.
Yeah.
Because like they made references to stuff like wearing the masks and how people weren't doing it properly, or like when people went mad to try and like steal toilet paper from each other and mauling each other in shops, and like how everyone thought it was just going to be a quick thing, but now all of a sudden people are queuing, and like, yeah, it was like such a throwback, if I can put it that way. It was like, I think we've all just as a society moved on so quickly and like blocked it out. And so when you see it, it's like, whoa, yeah, we lived through that. Wild. Insane. So that's season 5 of Superstore on Netflix. And then the other thing I'm crushing on, please don't judge me. So obviously the pandemic was really long, and Steve and I got into watching all the movies that have sequels. So like the Fast franchise, the Harry Potter franchise, the like all of that, Lord of the Rings, blah, blah, blah. And the pandemic was long because I finally convinced him that we need to do the Twilight series. So we watched 1 and 2, because I think 1 was on Showmax and the other one was on Netflix, but we were able to watch 1 and 2. But Eclipse does not exist on the internet. It's the wildest thing. Like, you cannot find it. It's not on Google Movies. It's not on any of the streaming services. Yeah, like Eclipse, Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Breaking Dawn Part 2 do not exist on like any of the streaming platforms. Very bizarre. So we ended up having to buy them from Takealot for like 30 rand. Because I was like, no, we can't leave it there. Like, we can't just watch the first 2. We have to get closure on the whole saga. So we got Eclipse, which we watched this week, which was Eclipse. I don't know how to. It's terrible and horrible, but good. Like, you can definitely see how over their budget increases and the directing gets a little bit better. Like, Bella has a little bit more character. Edward's a little bit more playful. Jacob is very annoying, but he's there. And it's just, yeah, it's so good to like actually rewatch those things after the hype and like be able to enjoy it for what it is. Like, you don't have to be critical of it, because it's not meant to be a cinematic masterpiece. It's meant to be an adaptation of a wildly popular book in a weird way for its time. And just remembering that the soundtrack to those movies was so fire. Just like, why is the music so good for those movies? I wanted to go back and listen to all the emo rock pop stuff. Anyway, that was what I was crashing on this week. Bit of a weird mix.
For me, I went back to the cinema the past week or so, and I watched two films. What could also say they're pretty different. So the first film I went to go watch was Downton Abbey: A New Era. It was It was a lovely film. It was very much like for the fans and like a kind of a closure of the series and the other film. And like it wasn't like maybe, I mean, if you're coming into it blind, you're not going to know what's going on. But like, and it didn't exactly do anything new or anything rebellious or anything like exciting, but it was comfort food. It was like what you know, the people you know, the storylines you know, like predictable and stuff. But I cried. Like I was like bawling my eyes out in the movies for that film. It was there was a scene, like I just love those characters so much that like it just like affected me. And my mom was sitting next to me and she was crying too. And the two of us are just like wiping our tears. Like it was very beautiful, and it was such a lovely gift for the fans, I think. And then the second film I went to go watch was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, staying on our Disney theme. I still haven't really come to terms with how I feel about it. I wasn't mad about how they dealt with one of my favorite characters, but it's fun, it's exciting. It plays with new ideas, which I like, and does something different. But it also gets a little bit confusing at times. Like I said to my nephew, like, because both of us are quite into it, and we watched all the stuff. And I was saying that like I also need like a little bit of a previously on. Like this is how the world is impacted by the events of Loki, impacted by the events of Spider-Man, impacted by the events of Doctor Strange. Like why is like how like, and I mean what he said was that I think the point is also for us to be confused so that anything is possible, anything can happen.
Oh, that's
Because
such an
we
interesting
aren't
take.
we are not sure of the world, so we aren't sure of what's coming next. So I mean that's an interesting point, but I still feel a little bit like what gedaan? And but
I know. I think that was. Sorry, I think that was my fear because like we're gonna watch it today, and I was just like, I haven't seen What If, and I don't remember. I mean, I know so many things alluded to the multiverse, but I'm like, this is very complicated to go into, to have to remember all these other things and have to have seen so many other things. So I mean, it's a good warning. Thank you.
I don't think you necessarily have to see all the things that people say you have to. I mean, I think other than like maybe Spider-Man, but even that is like iffish. I think and the first Doctor Strange, and obviously Avengers Endgame and that kind of thing. But like, I think the only like recent like thing that I think would have been maybe required viewing is WandaVision. Like that kind of like goes into Doctor Strange. But what is the other thing I want to say? It was very cool how they do the multiverse. So they jump through worlds, but they don't necessarily go to all the worlds. So you see like so you see a little bit of the animated world in a world where everybody's made out of paint, and it reminded me so much of the Faraway Tree books, the Enchanted Forest books by Ina Blyton, where there was a land on top of the tree. And like every time you go up, you climb up the tree, there's a different land. It gave me that sort of vibe, and I used to love those books. I still am obsessed with them. So like,
Moonface,
yeah,
and Pots and Pan Man.
yeah, I love those books. So so for me, it's like it gave me that sort of vibe, and it was cool. So yeah, I mean, that's what I've been watching. Thank you everyone for joining us for episode 14. We hope you guys had a great episode or had a great time listening to us. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntech. Syntech is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world. Me, you can find at Caryn Welby on Instagram, at Caryn Welbys with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter, Wildest Dreams, at wildestdreams.substack.com. The podcast can be found at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find us at What's IGN Crushing on YouTube, and you can find more information about this and all our other episodes on our website, crushingonpodcast.com. Send any feedback to mail@crushingonpodcast.com. And you can send us voice notes at +27 783622566. Join our Facebook group, Crushing on Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. The show is produced by me, Caryn, as well as Rebecca Barches and Leanne Phillipson. The show is edited by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof, and the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others to find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then.